Could Ellie Williams and Abby Anderson be allies in The Last of Us Part 3? Yes, that's definitely possible. Moreover, such a scenario would fit perfectly with the narrative style of the series, and especially with Neil Druckmann's approach to storytelling based on character depth. So, what would the structure of the game be like if Ellie and Abby were on the same side in The Last of Us Part 3? Imagine two arch-enemies fighting side by side for a single purpose. It could have provided a perfect finale for the series. In this very video, we will explain step by step how such an alliance could be possible. Then, we will deeply analyze how this theory, which is far from impossible, could shape the world, the characters, and the story.
The story of The Last of Us doesn't just tell us a tale of an apocalypse filled with infected.
At the same time, it also reveals the darkest and brightest corners of the human soul, exploring themes such as love, hatred, and redemption. The second act of this story closed with the tragic end of Ellie's journey for revenge. When Ellie returned from Santa Barbara after sparing Abby, Joel's killer, she was met with neither a sense of satisfaction nor Dina. The farmhouse was empty. Dina had left with the baby because of Ellie's obsession with hatred. All that remained was her guitar and a soul left completely alone. This is truly a breaking point. The fire of revenge within Ellie has died out, replaced by a sense of aimlessness. But remember, at the end of Part 2, as Ellie tries to play the guitar with her missing fingers, the memory of her last argument with Joel comes alive in her mind.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered, but you took that from me.
In that moment, she argued that if she had died in the hospital, at least her life would have had some meaning. So, do you think it's a coincidence that this scene is shown at the end of the game and that we're told the Fireflies have regrouped?
Hi, Abby. We got a clear signal on you. Where in Santa Barbara are you calling from?
24, 25 Constance. How many of you are there?
We're about 200 strong now, with a few more every month.
Owen was right.
Maybe Naughty Dog wants to bring the story to a true conclusion by resolving the emotional thread left unfinished in the first game.
That's why a new thought begins to sprout in Ellie's mind. I need to have a purpose beyond just surviving. At this moment, a scenario comes into play where she decides to pursue hope instead of revenge. She wants her immunity to mean something. Maybe she's even ready to sacrifice her own life to save humanity. It would be a perfect conclusion to the series' thematic journey.
The first game dealt with unconditional love, the second with revenge. A possible third game could deal with redemption and unity.
So, what will Ellie do after choosing this path? She needs an important piece of information.
Are the Fireflies, who were thought to have disbanded years ago, still active? As we learn thanks to Abby at the end of Part 2, yes, they are still active. They are regrouping on Catalina Island. Ellie obtaining this information leads her to set out on a single path to give her life a purpose, to reach the Fireflies.
So, in this situation, who does she need to reach the Fireflies? Yes, just as you guessed, Abby Anderson.
So how could this be possible? How could Ellie and Abby be on the same side? At the end of Part 2, Ellie didn't kill Abby and let her go. The game's menu screen implied that Abby and Lev had reached Catalina Island, which is the new base of the Fireflies. In this scenario, after years have passed, Ellie follows the clues she's gathered and finds a way to reach this base on Catalina. Just imagine that first moment when they meet. How tense and emotional would that be, right? On one side, Joel's killer. On the other, the person who killed all of that killer's friends. But now they're facing each other for a common goal that's much bigger than their personal hatred. Let's look at it from Abby's perspective. She too has gone through a major transformation within herself. Her father's dream of a cure was ended by Joel, which triggered years of longing for revenge. But after getting her revenge, just like Ellie, she also fell into a pit of aimlessness. Rejoining the Fireflies in Catalina may have given her back the sense of a greater purpose she had lost. She might even be clinging to the idea of restarting her father's unfinished vaccine research. So when Ellie comes knocking with her immunity, Abby won't be completely closed off to cooperation.
Of course, the process of building trust between them will be painful.
For the Fireflies, Ellie's presence is a vivid reminder of the great trauma they experienced in Salt Lake City. At this point, Abby's mediation plays a critical role. She can explain to them that Ellie is ready to sacrifice herself.
She might even vouch for her and take on a protective role.
On the other hand, Ellie must also confront the emotional burden of having to join forces with the woman who killed Joel. However, losing Jesse, JJ, and Dina has already shown her how meaningless revenge truly is. Now both of them are coming together so that their shared losses can find meaning.
One lost her father, the other lost a father figure.
Maybe by working together, they can prove that those losses were not in vain. At the heart of this collaboration are Ellie's immunity and Abby's Firefly connections. And of course, there's Lev. Representing Abby's conscience, Lev might be the most important character in breaking the ice between these two women.
So where would this partnership take us? In which regions would the game take place?
The story would most likely begin on Catalina Island, the new base of the Fireflies. But the adventure wouldn't be limited to just that. In order to recreate the vaccine, the duo would embark on a dangerous journey across different parts of America.
One of the most striking stops on this journey would be Salt Lake City, returning to St. Mary's Hospital, the place where Joel once spilled blood. How symbolic would that be, right?
Maybe this time, Ellie and Abby would walk side by side through those bloody corridors to find Jerry Anderson's unfinished research notes or a vital piece of equipment. This mission could have been the first step toward facing the past and seeking redemption. From there, their path could have stretched south into the arid deserts of places like Nevada and Arizona. In these sun-scorched lands, new types of infected, like clickers lying in ambush beneath the sands, would make survival even more difficult. This dangerous journey could have created a powerful narrative that simultaneously conveyed both the diversity of the game world and the character's inner transformation. Their return to the Santa Barbara area would also make the threat of the Rattlers inevitable. This group, which continues the slave trade, might still be active in the region in Part 3. They have taken control of the coastal lines that anyone wishing to reach Catalina Island must pass through, chaining up the people they capture and incorporating them into their trade network. This means that Ellie and Abby might have to directly confront the Rattlers during their journey. If we briefly mention the communities left from Part 2, they would have largely lost their former power. Even though I don't think they will play an active role in Part 3, some of them might still have managed to survive. After Isaac's death, the WLF would have splintered, continuing only as small militia groups patrolling their own territories. The Scar sect had already collapsed, disappearing along with their belief system. The Jackson community, on the other hand, would have largely cut ties with the outside world and focused on protecting its borders. In this chaotic world, it would now be the struggle that Ellie and Abby share that determines the direction and pace of the gameplay. Imagine being able to switch between Ellie and Abby during moments of crisis with dual character control, AI companionship, two-person puzzles, and complementary skill sets. While Ellie would excel at stealth and practical solutions, Abby would stand out with heavy weapons and brute force. But the biggest change would be thematic. Ellie's character arc would evolve from anger to a search for redemption. Abby, on the other hand, would transform from an anti-hero into a leader striving to uphold her father's ideal of a solution for humanity. In this way, the thematic closure of the trilogy would also be completed. Part 1 is love, Part 2 is revenge, Part 3 is redemption and unity. This thematic transformation would shape not only the two women at the center of the story, but also the lives of everyone left behind them. Even though Dina, who stayed in Jackson, tried to build a quiet life with her son, she could never fill the emptiness left by Ellie's absence.
As the years passed, Jesse's son, JJ, grew up, and through the stories his mother told, he began to hear Ellie's name like a legend. As for Tommy, he had long since lost that hope. Blind in one eye, his steps heavy, he had come to accept with bitter awareness what revenge had turned him into. Even though each of them was now in a different place, the same silent thought echoed within them all. Was there still any hope left in this world?
As a result, The Last of Us Part 3, where Ellie and Abby are on the same side, would be a strong contender for the most emotional and epic entry in the series.
The story would evolve from a cycle of personal revenge to the message of either we survive together or none of us survive. This would offer players an unforgettable experience. The fact that these two characters, who suffered on different paths for 2 games, finally unite for a common purpose would add incredible depth to the story. Whether the final act ends with a tragic victory where Ellie sacrifices herself or with a hopeful ending where both survive through an alternative solution, in either case, the story would deliver the sense of closure it deserves. This scenario would seal The Last of Us legend as the completed final link. It would not just be a story of survival in a dark world, it could also have gone down in gaming history as a shared struggle for the salvation of humanity.
So what do you think? Could this forced partnership between Ellie and Abby have been a fitting finale for the series? Or is the dark and shocking tone of the revenge story indispensable for you? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to see more alternative scenarios like this, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.